Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC 276, a fantastic card between Israel Adesanya and Jared Cannonier. We're going to talk two plays as always do, as well as deep diving into the main event of the evening. I'm excited about this one. Let me tell you something. There are great fights from top to bottom. It is stacked. There are so many plays that I like on this card. This is definitely going to be the most plays I've ever released on one event. There's just so many great spots here to put our money in strong position. So I'm excited about it. We're going to break all that down. And listen, if you want to become a client, link that in the description. I also have a 5% best bet play this weekend. They're 11-4 over the last 15 months. So we've been out here making money. And listen, one thing I also like to do as well is at the halfway mark, kind of see where we are. Are we making money? Are we doing the right thing? So I actually tweeted this out. If you do want to follow me at Kyle Anthony UFC on Twitter, right now we are profiting for clients 81.49 units so far this year, and we are hitting at a 61% winning percentage clip. We're really doing some great things here. It feels good to kind of look back, but also we got to keep going forward. I always talk about that here, win or lose, we got to keep going forward. There's so many events, so many opportunities. That's what we're going to be doing. And the other thing real quick you want to go over is this Friday on MSG Network, I will be hosting some conversations with Al Iaquinta this weekend. We're going to be on the Better Hour on MSG Network. So if you want to get into that, you want to take a look, go take a look at it. Appreciate all the support there as well. And last order of business is if you're going to be in Vegas, August 20th, 21st, somewhere in there, Wager Talk is having a big event out there, so I suggest you guys go out there. All the cappers are going to be out there. Everyone's going to be there. We're going to have a great event, a great time, so I'll be out there for about 4 nights. So if you're out there, DM me, let me know what's going on. But besides for that, we are going to break down the main event of the evening between Jared Cannonier and Israel Adesanya. Now, if you look at this line right now, we got Israel Adesanya a minus 480. And on the comeback here, we've got Jared Cannonier. He is plus 330. So we're going to be doing what we always do here. We're going to break down 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first person we're going to be talking about here is the current champion, Israel Adesanya, and 3 fights ago, he fought Jan Blachowicz. Now, this was a fight here where I think a lot of people, when they remember this fight, they kind of look at the fact that, hey, Jan just took him down, or Jan controlled him. The one thing about this fight, a couple things actually, but the one thing is you definitely saw just the elevation of takedown defense. It's starting to get there for Adesanya. Now, Blachowicz is a big dude. Adesanya came in late in this fight, so it's definitely some different things compared to what we're going to see Saturday night. But he moved up in weight, trying to take on Blachowicz, and the one thing there was the takedown defense rate. But also the big part of this is really going to be the fact that Jan is so good at checking leg kicks, and that really kind of pushed this fight more towards Jan as the fight was going on. Not only was he really outlanding Israel in certain spots, because Israel, I think, was worried about the takedowns, the threat was there, it kind of kept him out of rhythm a little bit, but he was checking so many of those leg kicks, and that's one thing that Jan has that we've talked about a couple times in the show, is that he just is really great with timing these checks, and that kind of took another weapon away from Israel throughout the fight. And going through the fight, he had to worry about the takedowns, but, the striking, it just seemed like he couldn't really get into rhythm. And again, at range, he was worried about the takedowns. So there was a lot of kind of mechanics going on there. The way that later in the fight, the way that Jan really mixed it up, was able to get the takedowns, was able to kind of lay on him in one of the rounds, and kind of start to pull away in the scorecards here. So it was a different situation here where you look at, could something like this happen where Cannonier looking to take him down? We'll talk about that in a little bit, but in this fight here, Israel Adesanya loses to Blachowicz via decision. 2 fights ago, Israel fought Marvin Vettori. Now, this one here is one we don't really have to break down too much here, because it was kind of, Vettori has, the big part here was, hey, can Vettori take him down? Can Vettori take him down? That's, hey, can he take him down? Can he control him? And early in the fight, Marvin was trying to move forward. He was trying to march forward. He was trying to really create less space, which he did a great job there. I give him credit because he really walked Israel down throughout that fight. but his striking, his technical striking just isn't there. He's willing to go in there in the pocket. He's willing to push forward. He's willing to look for those level changes. He's willing to take the shots and move forward. Israel was picking apart his legs, again, utilizing the leg kicks big time there, trying to push him up against the fence. He just really couldn't do much. And Israel pretty much was backpedaling, but outlanding, firing, outlanding, countering, a lot of things there. He just couldn't get it. Even when times when Vettori got him down, Israel was very, very just calculated the way he kind of got out of the scramble or able to kind of get out. All he's doing right now is focusing on that. We're seeing a lot of that as we go through his fights, that he is just really, really elevating that part of his game. But in this fight here, Israel did get, Vettori did get his back at one point, which got a little hairy there. But Israel, again, he was able to kind of scramble, change position, reverse position, and ended up being okay. But throughout this fight here, this was all Israel Adesanya, start to finish. He won 50-45 on pretty much every single card. So there you have it there. Israel Adesanya wins via decision. Most recently, he fought Robert Whittaker. This is part 2. Now, this was a great fight because this was, Whittaker got absolutely sparked in their last time. Could that happen again? How is it going to be able to, could he dictate the pace of the fight? And once again, right away, you saw Israel goes out there, he starts landing big leg kicks, hurting Whittaker. Whittaker was in a position where in that first round, he looked completely lost in that fight. I mean, even after that first round, Israel dropped him in the first round also, and Whittaker goes back to his corner, and he's looking at his corner like, what the hell is going on? He looked just unmotivated. He looked like he was drained. He even talked to his corner and said, listen, I can't, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling with these leg kicks. He knows how to attack my legs. And Israel, Israel, the way he sets up these leg kicks, it's really no movement. He doesn't really show much. It's just right from the hip. He's able to fire those leg kicks really, really perfectly and then be ready for the counter. And he's very, very good at that. But as the fight kind of went on, Robert started to kind of get into his groove a little bit, pushing forward a little bit. And even on some of these takedowns, again, even when Whittaker got it, Whittaker again, hey, I'm going to go for these takedowns. Let me control Israel for a round, get some ground and pound, get some top position, maybe win the round. And even in the spot here, he landed 4 of 9 takedowns, which is fairly good, but no control time. He really wasn't able to control Israel on the ground. Israel again scrambling, got right back to his feet. It's really showing he's utilizing, again, all of his limbs to get up, to get out of danger, and it's really starting to show. And against the last 2 guys there, against Vettori and against Whittaker, he really showed a lot. But throughout that fight, both guys were landing, and Israel controlled the center of the cage the entire time. He was able to kind of, it was close. Some of these rounds were very close. So some people said, hey, did Whittaker win? I still gave it to Adesanya, but with that being said, Israel really controlled the center. He controlled the center. He was, landing good shots, but he was very comfortable being at range. He was very comfortable. Hey, if Whittaker's going to stay on the outside, I'm going to work him out from range, and if he's coming inside, I'm going to be ready for the takedowns. And that's kind of this little game where Whittaker couldn't really dominate around or control around. I think there was one round he did pretty well, but some very close rounds in there. So either way, Israel Adesanya does go out there and get the decision victory over Robert Whittaker. And there's here we've got Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier again plus 330. And 3 fights ago he also fought Robert Whittaker. And this was an interesting fight here where I did like Cannonier going into this fight. I thought that he would be able to kind of dictate the pace a little more, but as we all know, early in that first round, Whittaker throws a head kick. Cannonier blocks it, breaks his arm or fractured it, wherever it was, the damage of that. And he didn't throw a punch almost throughout the fight, which I gotta say says a lot. The fact that he kept this fight decently close, utilizing leg kicks, trying to just really pick him apart in that manner, because Whittaker was popping out the jab, really a lot of movement from Whittaker too, in and out, bouncing around. This was a 3-round fight. It helped Whittaker. Whittaker's been used to a lot of these 5-round fights, and I think he was able to kind of really step on the gas on his movement, which made it hard for Jared, even though, again, at that time, he had no idea that Jared, was injured or hurt or anything like that, but he really, really set the pace nicely, and again, I think it's impressive that Jared actually kept this pretty close over 3 rounds, but he did clearly lose 2-1 in this fight here. So Robert Whittaker does beat Jared Cannonier via decision. And then 2 fights ago, Jared fought Calvin Gastelum. This was another fight here where the movement did seem to kind of have problems, to show problems for Jared. Where Jared, again, he definitely is a big, strong guy, but he just kept moving. And the quick combinations of Calvin really, gave problems to Cannonier in the pocket, the high movement, and he couldn't really get into a groove. And you could kind of see that. And even though Jared was landing some good shots early in that fight, it looked like Calvin was really starting to kind of find his rhythm there. But throughout the fight, there was a couple times where Cannonier dropped him, landed some good shots. That kind of started to steal some of these rounds. Late in the fight, it showed some durability by Kelvin, where Kelvin got blasted, and he's able to bounce back up. It was like, it was on a trampoline. He just, boom, he got dropped, back up. We've seen that from Kelvin, his durability, his toughness. That's kind of how he's been able to kind of survive some of these brawls that he's been in. But pretty much for the most part there, Jared landed some good shots at the end. The more damaging shots came from Jared, which he's gonna need to do against Adesanya, land the more damaging shots. But it was a close fight. Either way, it did go to Jared Cannonier via decision. And then most recently, Cannonier fought Derek Brunson. Now, this was another fight here where, how would this kind of play out? How would that Brunson's going to be shooting, and can Jared really kind of get that, create the space? And this was by here, we're in that first round. Derek had 7 takedown attempts, and multiple times in that round, he was able to get him down, control him. Jared would get back up. He would shoot for another takedown. He was relentless with the takedowns. He did not want to stand and bang with Jared. He knew that was his path, kind of grinding on him. And there was a point in that first round where the end of the first round, Derek had a deep rear naked choke on him. Looked like the fight was going to be probably over if it had another 10 seconds. It was in. It ended up being saved by the bell, ended up saving him to get into the second round. But in the second round, again, the pushing forward, Derek looking to kind of get those takedowns. And this is, again, one of the things that Jared has. Jared has fantastic power, and he ended up landing a big shot. And once he landed that shot, which was, I think, kind of the beginning of that second round, Derek, he looked like a different person. As soon as he got rocked, he ended up taking the shot. But his hands were down. He was moving very awkwardly. You even heard Joe Rogan and them on the announcing table. They're kind of like, what's kind of going? He definitely got hit there, but he is not recovering. And that's kind of pretty much Cannonier took his time, knew he had time to kind of wait for the shot, and he ended up dropping him, finishing him with hard elbows. That's, again, one thing that Cannonier's got. He's got vicious ground and pound. He goes out there and gets the victory by TKO in the second round. Now, with that being said, obviously we've got Israel Adesanya on the one side here, high-level kickboxer. His kicking arsenal is just, elite level when it comes to that. But the one thing that he does really well against opponents is the fakes and the feints. He's really able to draw out a lot of attacks from his opponents. His opponents are, when it's kind of at a stalemate at a distance, he definitely switches stances very smoothly from orthodox to southpaw, but then he's able to, fake and draw something out to counter, and he's very, very, very good at that. It's something I think that he could really utilize against Jared Cannonier. And then aside Cannonier, he's a big, strong guy, has fought at higher divisions, higher weight classes, and that power has come with him as he's dropped down in weight, and and again, he's a guy that can switch stances and do some great things. Now, the big part here is the grappling. Now, that's where a lot of people are saying, hey, can Cannonier take him down? Can he take him down? Can he control him? Can he keep that top position? And obviously, that's one thing I think that Cannonier can do. I think he can get these takedowns. I think he can get them, and it will be bad if he starts dropping bombs, because again, he's strong enough to probably keep Israel in certain controlling positions. But again, it's very, very interesting to see the evolution of Adesanya's takedown defense game and his scrambling. Even when he's been taken down against tough opponents, he's just able to really just get back up. He does not waste time. He does not sit on his back and sit in guard and think about what he's going to do. He is quick. As soon as he's down, It's just continual motion to kind of get him to scramble, get his back up against the fence, to kind of have to create space. So I think that the grappling, I think Israel should be okay. I really think he should be okay in that spot to kind of at least create the distance and have an opportunity to get away from that. But the other side of it here is the leg kicks, and that's something that Israel consistently uses. He's really, really good at range, firing the leg kicks. And on the other side of that is Cannonier's good at checking leg kicks. He's very good at checking leg kicks. He is, he throws his own with a lot of power. And I'm not really sure if I think he's going to be able to just go leg kick for leg kick against Adesanya. I think that would be a terrible, terrible idea if he goes out there and tries to do that. And I think that checking the leg kicks could minimize some of the damage, because that's something that Israel is going to be firing off consistently in that first round, in that second round, to take some power away from Cannonier, take some of that movement away from Cannonier, and then from there, Israel with his great movement, can start to pick Cannonier apart throughout the fight. And that's part of this as well. Is the issue for Jared is the movement that he has really struggled when it comes to some of these movements against, we've seen it against Gastelum, where he just, Whittaker too, even though, some of these fights he's won, the movement is very, very tough for him. And now we're at a big, a normal size UFC cage. Israel is just really going to be able to be at range, work from the outside, move around the cage a lot. That's going to be very difficult for him. And for cutting distance, that's going to be tough, because if Cannonier needs to get inside, another advantage for Adesanya is he's got a 3-inch reach advantage. So he's got a reach advantage, as well as he is very rangy with his striking. I always kind of talk about that. I always utilize Amanda Nunes and how she throws punches, where her power is extended when her arm is completely extended. That is something that Adesanya has. His arm can be completely straight when he's throwing punches. He doesn't need to throw the big hooks and use his body. He's just able to kind of pop out these big shots, these heavy shots. So it's going to be hard for Cannonier to get the takedowns, or work the takedowns, or cut distance to land the big shots. So that's going to help Adesanya there, where he's going to have the reach advantage as well as the rangy striking. But the fact that Israel is comfortable at range, and this is where I think the fight starts to get a little bit further into the fight. And I think the fact that we have seen Israel Adesanya throughout the last few fights, that he's okay kind of being at range. He's okay, I wouldn't really say point fighting, because he has the ability to finish a guy, but he's very risk averse. His risk management now has changed, where he's okay. Listen, if this guy's got the power, I'm not gonna go in there and just trade shots with him. And he realizes that, and against guys who have been much stronger than him, he has really kind of implemented that game plan to say, I'm gonna stay at distance, I can outstrike you for the 5 rounds, and that's where things start to get a little bit further here. And yes, if a guy is hurt, Israel will go for the kill. If he's hurt the guy, he will find an opportunity and dig in and start landing the big shots. But if it's just a back and forth, he is okay being at range. So I think that could push this fight a little bit further, as well as the takedown threat. Now, we've seen that Israel does not want any part of takedowns. Zero part of it. Now, could it happen? Yeah, I think they're going to be there, but I think the threat of the takedown keeps Israel Adesanya even more at range. So not only is that the fact that he's comfortable at range, and that's really where he's going to probably land the most shots, be the most comfortable, but the fact that on the other side is the takedown threat's there, so it's going to really keep him at distance, and that's where I think that it starts to push this fight further and further, plus the fact that both of these guys have great cardio. So it's not that, hey, if they go to deep water, Cannonier is not going to be there, or that kind of thing. I just really think that this fight, I mean, first of all, the fact that it's minus 480 is a pretty wide line. I think it's way wider than it should be. But I do like Israel Adesanya here. I think he has the ability, the comfort level at range, the fact that there's going to be a threat of takedowns. I think that he's okay point fighting in certain spots and just completely outstriking Jared Cannonier using his 3-inch reach advantage. So for me here, getting off the minus 480 number, I like Israel Adesanya via points, plus 130. I think it's a great price here. I think it's kind of been where things are going for him. If the kill shot is there, I think he'll go for it. But I think in general, I think he is going to be at range. He's going to be outstriking Cannonier, does not want to get anywhere near his power. I think Adesanya goes out there and gets the victory via points, plus 130. And the last fight we'll talk about is Jim Miller versus Donald Cerrone. We've got Jim Miller, he's minus 220. Donald Cerrone plus 170. I'm gonna make this one quick here. But the first thing here is the fact that this fight is taking place at welterweight. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. That they're thinking this is a 155 fight and this is gonna be a 170 fight. Now, I think this line kind of is indicating that it would be at that weight class. Because the fact that he's had back-to-back, he's weight loss, or weight cuts, I should say, not weight losses, weight cuts, back-to-back weight cuts with canceled fights and all these things going on. For him to have a third one really would, I think this line may make sense, but the fact that he's now at more of a comfortable weight class, I think he looks better at that weight class, looks more healthier. I mean, we saw him at the last weigh-ins, he looked very frail, he looked out of it. I think this is where he's going to be the most healthy for him. So I think it's a very good spot that he does not need to drain himself. I think it helps his chin also. I think it's going to help his cardio. I think it helps a lot of things where Jim Miller is moving up in weight, and this could slow him down. You know, this could be more of a slowing down for Jim Miller, but also Jim Miller's not a big guy. He's not a big guy. He's not a guy that has this big frame that's really built for a welterweight division. I think that that actually tilts you even more towards Donald Cerrone, that he's just not really built for the weight class. Also, on the other side of this is that the grappling. Now, Jim Miller, he's lethal, but also Cerrone's got a great ground game too. So I think that really nullifies each other. I think that really nullifies the ground game. I think it's going to be predominantly a striking bout. I don't really think that you're going to see much of it. Maybe a couple scrambles here and there, but I think for the most part, these guys are fighting at range. I think both of them don't really have much to lose. I think they want to put on a show also. So at a position where this is going to be a striking bout, I give the advantage to Donald Cerrone. I think his kicking attack's better. His striking is a little bit crisper. I don't really rate Jim Miller's striking very good. He's going to be shooting, but even if he shoots, again, I still think Cerrone is well capable of getting out of certain situations against Jim Miller. I think it sets up very well stylistically for Cerrone, and we're getting a plus 170 on Cerrone. So for me, here is my other free play. I'm taking Donald Cerrone plus 170. I think that fact that this is at 170, I think really helps him not having to drain down, Miller not being a bigger guy. I think that Cerrone can really work his striking and actually go out there and get the victory. So for me here, I think this fight is going to be way closer than this line indicates. So I'm taking Donald Cerrone plus 170 as my other free play. So there you have it for UFC 276. Excited about this card. This is just going to be a fantastic one. Can't wait to just sit back, watch the plays unfold. We have been dominating this year. We got to keep it going. So if you want to become a client, link in the description. And this is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.